Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a poor beggar. Now, this beggar was not always a beggar. In fact, he used to be a rich merchant. But due to some unfortunate circumstances, he lost all his money, and now he spends his days asking for food and money on the street corners. One day, while begging, he came across an old woman who was sitting on a nearby bench. He walked up to her and asked for some alms. The old woman rummed family and pulled out a small pouch from under her raggedy cloak. She opened it and took out a single gold coin, the only coin he had left. So he thanked her and continued on his way. As he was walking, he saw a man who was even poorer than him. This man was shaking and shivering in the cold weather. Upon seeing him, the beggar felt a pang of sympathy and guilt. He knew that if he didn't do something, this poor man might die of cold. Now the beggar had two options in front of him. One was to keep the coin and buy some bread, or maybe some wine to warm himself up. The other was to give away his last coin to the needy man. The beggar thought about what to do for a moment, but ultimately decided to give away his last coin. He walked up to the shivering man and offered him the coin. "Here, take this," he said. "It's the only money I have, but please use it to buy yourself some warm bread or wine. Stay safe tonight." The other man looked at him in surprise. "Are you sure?" "No, I don't need it more than you do," the beggar replied. "Please, take it." The other man hesitated for a moment, but eventually took the coin and thanked the beggar. As the beggar turned to walk away, he heard people around him laughing and jeering. "What a fool he is," one man said. "He could have bought himself some bread with that, but he chose to give it away to a beggar." Another man added, "That's right. He might not be too hungry now, but he'll be begging for food by tomorrow." They shook their heads and dispersed. The beggar felt sad after hearing their comments, but he knew he had done the right thing. He just hoped that the other man would stay safe during the night. That night, as the beggar slept on the streets, he had a strange dream. He dreamt that he was inside a magnificent palace. It was huge and beautiful, with high ceilings and walls made of pure gold. The beggar wondered how such a place could exist. Suddenly, a man approached him. The man looked kind and welcoming. "Welcome to my palace," he said. "I am its owner. I want to thank you for your generosity." Confused, the beggar asked, "Generosity? I didn't do anything." The man smiled and said, "You did something wonderful today. You gave away your last coin to someone in need. That's why I want to reward you." The beggar still didn't understand. But before he could ask any more questions, he woke up. He was still on the streets, but the dream felt so real that he couldn't help but wonder if it had been true. Just then, the man from yesterday walked up to him. "Hey, I'm sorry," he began, awkwardly. "I wanted to give back your coin, but I couldn't find you yesterday. Everyone said you were here, so I waited." The beggar looked at him in confusion. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "Why would I want my coin back?" The man looked at him for a moment before realizing something. "Oh, I'm sorry," he said again. "I thought you were the beggar from yesterday. I'm sorry to bother you." And with that, he turned and walked away. The beggar watched him leave, confused and puzzled. He couldn't understand why the man had tried to return his coin, or why he had offered to give him shelter and food. As the days passed, the beggar started noticing small changes in his life. People around him became kinder and more helpful. They offered him food and money, and some even invited him to their homes for a warm meal. One day, the same man from the dream approached him. "Hello," he said with a smile. "How are you?" The beggar recognized him instantly. "You're the man from my dream," he exclaimed. The man laughed and said, "Yes, it's me. I wanted to ask if you would like a job at my palace. I need someone to take care of my animal stables." The beggar was shocked. "You want me to work at your palace?" he asked. "But I'm just a beggar." The man smiled and said, "That doesn't matter. You're a hard worker and a kind soul. I know you'll do a great job." The beggar couldn't believe his luck. He accepted the offer immediately. He worked at the palace for several years, and during that time, his life changed completely. He was no longer the beggar he once was. He had a home, food, and people respected and cared about him. One day, the beggar sat down on a nearby bench to rest. As he looked around him, he couldn't help but wonder how his life had changed since he'd given away his last coin. He realized that what you give is what you get. His simple act of kindness had come back to him in ways he never imagined. He thought about the other beggar he'd given the coin to. The beggar smiled as he realized that his act of kindness had created a ripple effect. It had not only changed his life, but the life of the other beggar as well. Then he noticed a young boy approaching him. The boy looked sad and disappointed. He walked up to the beggar and said, "I'm sorry to bother you, sir, but I haven't eaten in days. Could you spare some food?" The beggar looked at the boy and felt a pang of sympathy. He remembered his own days of begging and knew how it felt to go hungry. The beggar reached into his pocket and pulled out a few coins. He handed them to the boy and said, "Go buy yourself some bread, and if you're still hungry, come back and I'll give you some more." The boy looked at him in surprise. "Thank you, sir," he said. "That's very kind of you." And with that, he ran off to buy some food. The beggar watched him go and smiled. He knew that what he was doing was not out of pity, but out of the goodness of his heart. After the boy left, the beggar turned to the audience and said, "Friends, we may not have much, but we can always give what we have. Even a small act of kindness can make a big difference in someone's life. And who knows, maybe one day it will come back to us in an unexpected way." Then he looked directly at the camera and said, "Now it's your turn. Do one selfless act today and see how it changes your life." Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart or taught you something new, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. More inspiring stories are just a click away.